in order to become an astronaut, and eventually a spacewalker, you have to know all the physics and all these kind of things. Can you talk about the initial, what you have to do in order to even get into that sort of mindset of becoming somebody who can do spacewalking?
Yes, a little bit. I wish I understood that a little more, because me personally, I have an engineering degree, 2 engineering degrees actually, a bachelor and master's degree in aeronautical engineering, but it took me 8 tries to get selected by NASA. So, you know, I may not be an expert on how you actually become an astronaut, because it took me so long to actually get here, but it was definitely well worth the effort once I finally made it. But yes, every astronaut has a technical degree. We have astronauts ranging from medical doctors to PhD engineers, chemists, astronomers. We even have a veterinarian.
Okay, I'm separating from the spacecraft.
Okay, separate from the spacecraft this time, all right.
Okay, my feet are out. I think I'm dragging a little bit, so I don't want to fire the gun yet. Okay, I'm out.
Okay, now, close free.
Okay, I put a little roll in, took it right out.
Well, nothing can probably prepare you for stepping out the first time on your first spacewalk. Could you sort of relate that, you know, if you remember what it was and, you know, what the feeling was from your perspective?
Well, it's a great feeling, and right, you're right. Nothing can totally prepare you, I think, because even though we have the best training for spacewalks, I think that any astronaut gets for anything here in this beautiful pool that you see behind me, you're still not sure exactly how you're going to feel the first time you float out into space. You know, it would be very uncomfortable if you felt like for 6.5 hours you had to have a death grip holding on to the space station for fear of falling off, because, you know, when you do look down between your legs, it's about 250 miles down. You see the Earth rotating beneath you, and you need both hands to actually do a lot of the tasks. So fortunately for me, I floated out there and I felt very comfortable the very first time I was outside. I attribute all this great training that we got, but I felt very natural. It was a very comfortable feeling for me to be out there working and using both of my hands for the tasks. And
Well, I mean, the one thing that, you know, obviously has, you know, evolved over the years is the aspect from Gemini now, you know, past the Space Fellowship to beyond, is the technology that makes it easier to do probably work outside whatever capsule, space shuttle, or spacecraft. Can you talk about that and how the sort of technology and the ability to do things has evolved over the years?
well, sure, we've certainly learned quite a bit about spacewalking in the 50 years that we've been involved with it. The tools have been advanced, the spacesuits have definitely come a long way. We still have more advancements to make in spacesuits. We'll always be designing new tools that will make our spacewalking jobs easier. But you know, the bottom line is we've been able to be successful for a long period of time doing spacewalks on the moon, at the Hubble Space Telescope, on the International Space Station. So we've been doing very well, and we'll continue to advance techniques and tools and suits.
Roger, Bruce, loud and clear.
Well, that may have been one small step for Neil, but it's a heck of a big leap for me.
Roger, copy that, Bruce.
Okay, Bruce, we see you airport. We're down here. Hey, great.
Now, what is it like to work it outside? Because you're doing technical work on a lot of these things. You know, what do you have to sort of think about? Because you have different things that are being used off the space station, off these kind of things. Can you talk about, you know, what has to go through your mind when you're fixing these things for such a long time outside in space?
Well, if you like working on your car, if you like doing a little construction around the house, it's a lot like that. You know, the tools are very similar. I think astronauts that do those sorts of things feel more comfortable with the tools that they're using during the spacewalks, and so you're actually so well trained before you ever do a task in space that you know the tools inside and out, you know the hardware inside and out. It's usually a very comfortable feeling once you get out there to actually work on something, although I've been on 5 spacewalks and never one went 100% the way it was supposed to go. We've always had some little hiccups maybe along the way, but we've always been able to work around them, and with the help of our ground team here in Houston and other astronauts that are up there with us, big team effort, we're usually able to accomplish the tasks that we're trying to get done.
And don't forget to monitor, Bruce, your GN2 gauges for about 60 seconds when you get a chance to verify not too much pressure loss.
Yep. A little bit of
Bruce McCandless preparing to make his 150-foot sojourn, moving away from the orbiter out to a distance of 150 feet and then returning. And then following that, about 10 minutes later, he will go out to a distance of 300 feet.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing with space exploration. I mean, you have to keep, you know, trying new things. I mean, can you talk about any of the new advancements, you know, within even that, you know, the suits will be able to do, you think, in the future? Is it more motion? Is it more sort of peripheral vision? What kind of things do you think?
Oh, definitely more motion. I think a little more flexibility in the suits, in the joints. I think, you know, we're designing suits now that will be used back on a planet like Mars, or a satellite like the Moon, or even an asteroid, something that we can physically walk around on. You know, at the International Space Station, we're not walking, we're not using our legs, we're just climbing around using our arms and hands. But these suits in the future will have to be flexible enough to be able to maybe walk, or not only walk around, but kneel down to pick up a rock or some sample from the surface. Probably better shoulder bearings to be able to mimic the motion that a human shoulder can make a little better than our current suits probably, and even more dexterity in the gloves.
Holy mackerel. I am not 20 feet from that satellite. Ain't that about it?
Now, can you talk about the training, if you could? Because the thing is that we've been talking about a lot about, you know, that, you know, what's necessary, and obviously you're there at the pool. What kind of training, if you can give like our students a perspective, goes into, like, you know, becoming, you know, somebody who could spacewalk? You got to spend so much time in that pool, I would think.
Exactly, and behind me you see the world's largest indoor swimming pool we have here at the Johnson Space Center. We call it the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory. The pool is 202 feet long, 101 feet wide, and 40 feet deep. And we have the entire International Space Station mocked up in this pool. So we can put on the same suits that we wear in space and go underwater. The divers that swim around us for safety purposes will make us neutrally buoyant, so that we're not floating up or floating down once we're in the water. It feels like we're weightless in a way. And we climb around on the space station and do our tasks, rehearsing what we're going to be doing in space. So that's what we do for hundreds of hours before we go to space, is rehearse every spacewalk down to the task over and over again until we know it by heart.
And my last question, we're talking about 50 years of spacewalks, and what is possible. The thing is that nobody can ever, only a very few people have figured out or, have experienced what it feels like in space. Is it like being in a pool, or is it something a little bit more, maybe, not to be too esoteric, but ethereal?
Well, I'll tell you the differences. In the pool, when you're floating around next to the International Space Station and you look down, it's maybe 20 or 30 feet and you see the bottom of a pool. If you flip upside down in the pool, work with your head down towards the bottom of the pool, the blood is going to rush to your head. In space, you're floating around, you look down, it's 250 miles down and you see the Earth. And if you flip upside down in space, there's really no upside down or right side up, because in weightless, the blood doesn't rush to your head. It's very comfortable to get into a good body position for any task that you need to do. So those are the main differences. And in space, of course, we don't have these safety divers swimming around us, bringing us tools. We have to have all our tools on our tool belt ready to go. So it's those are the main differences. So it's just the perfect analog, though, here, this pool, to work in, to train for those spacewalks, because the similarities are very, very cool. And in space, that's another thing that goes away. We don't have any resistance in the vacuum of space, so we actually have to slow down a little bit and be in better control so that we don't go out of control while we're moving around.